Just before we get into this video, guys, I want to hit 10k by the end of the year, so if you haven't subscribed and you do enjoy the content, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button, because I'd love you forever, and I'm not going to charge you, but I will haunt you in your sleep. So if you don't want that, maybe subscribe, you know what I mean? So this video is a long time coming. This time we are talking about phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm going to be ranking the films in that phase from worst to best. Now, weirdly, because it is like 11 different films and this video will be way too long, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this video into two parts. So this is going to be the latter half, or the lower end films in my opinion, of phase 3, and then the next video will be about the ones that I really like in phase 3. As always, this is just my opinion. If you happen to disagree, who cares? I'm not trying to change your opinion, I'm just telling you mine. I'm just opening a discussion. That's all. And obviously, for those of you who aren't aware, phase 3 of the MCU starts off with Captain America Civil War and goes all the way up, I believe, to Spider-Man Far From Home. So in last place in terms of phase 3 is Captain Marvel. And I know straight away people are going to say all these different things and just assume a whole load of different things, but thing is, for me, Captain Marvel as a movie was fine. But that's the thing, fine is not terrible, but it's not great either. The problem that I have with Captain Marvel is the hype surrounding it was so big that I just don't think it could have lived up to those expectations. And in the end, whilst there are some really cool moments in this film, it's actually kind of forgettable for me. Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, I think, again, is just fine. I don't think she's terrible, but I don't think she's incredible either. I do like the fact that we've got the Skrulls in this movie, and I do like the fact that we do revisit characters in the past, such as Nick Fury and obviously the rest of S.H.I.E.L.D. like Coulson, but in the end this movie just fell flat for me. And I think the whole thing of how Nick Fury lost his eye is incredibly stupid, and they kind of did the typical Marvel thing of let's make it funny, when sometimes the humour doesn't always need to be there. I think it looks fantastic as a film. I think the costume design is really strong in this one, but in terms of the actual plot, it just fell a bit flat for me. Next up, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now here's the thing, again, similar to Captain Marvel, there's nothing inherently wrong with Ant-Man and the Wasp. As a film, it's fine. Again, similar to Captain Marvel, if I watch it, I'm not going to be bored out of my mind, I'm not going to be thinking, oh my god, turn this shit off, but it's just a bit forgettable. I think the performances in this movie and the goofy, wacky stuff that's in here is the same as it was in the first Ant-Man film, but I don't really feel like they switched this movie up enough. I do quite like the stuff with the Quantum Realm, obviously that would play further into Avengers Endgame, and I do really like seeing Giant Man on a more regular basis. Like, it's not just that one appearance in Civil War that he's had previously, like you actually see him go really big and really small, which is cool. There's that chase sequence where they're like throwing stuff out the window and the Pez dispensers and all that sort of stuff. That's awesome. It's really cool seeing the Wasp as well. She's an awesome character, but again, this movie is fine when I'm watching it, but I never really think about it. And again, dud villain. I don't think the villain in this movie is very good at all. I kind of felt that Marvel was slowly getting away from the dodgy villain, but in this movie, she's just the weakest part of it, really. Next up, a choice that is also probably going to be controversial, which is Black Panther. Now here's the thing with Black Panther. If anything, this was a major disappointment for me, because I remember doing a video way back in 2018 when I was talking about the movies that I am the most excited for coming out in 2018, and Black Panther, I don't know if it was top, but it was up there. Like, I was so excited for Black Panther. I thought he was awesome in Civil War, and I think T'Challa as a character is fucking awesome. And the thing is, with this film, I think the first 2/3 are really good, but then the third act just shits the bed. For me, it is one of the weakest latter half of a Marvel movie that we've had for a long time. It just looks like a ridiculous CGI mess where the hero is fighting against an identical version of himself, essentially, like a mirrored villain. Like, we saw it with Iron Man, we've seen it with countless characters at this point, and it was a bit repetitive and dull. I think it was a massive mistake killing off Andy Serkis as well, because I thought he was a really strong presence in the movie, and I thought in future Black Panther films, like he was in the comics, like Claw is a big Black Panther character. Like, I don't get why they decided to kill him off the way that they did. But like I say, the build up to the last bit I think is really cool, and T'Challa's story of him trying to find himself, and those scenes in the, I don't know what it's even called, like the Netherworld or something, like it looked beautiful. And so to go from shots like that where it looks incredible and Wakanda itself looks incredible to this third act where it is just PlayStation characters beating the shit out of each other, yeah, I wasn't really feeling it. And I think what makes it a shame now is the fact that Chadwick Boseman is obviously no longer with us, so I don't actually know what Marvel is going to do for the next Black Panther film. I know that they've announced it, and I'm going to assume that Shuri takes on the mantle, or maybe someone else. I don't know. I don't think it'd be right to recast him. I think that'd be a really bad move. But it is a shame that after such a strong appearance in Civil War, to go from that to a movie that for me was a bit of a letdown, it's a shame that we're not going to get too much more of Black Panther. So yeah, it is what it is. But overall, that's just what I think. I think the movies that I'm going to mention are better than this one. Next, I'm going to go to Spider-Man Homecoming, which again I think was a bit of a disappointment. And the thing is, in terms of the villain problem that I've mentioned in the last couple, this did not have that. I think Vulture is one of the strongest MCU villains, and I think Michael Keaton put in a fantastic performance as Adrian Toomes. See, for me, Vulture was never really a Spider-Man villain that I really looked to, or was like, oh my god, it's Spider-Man against the Vulture again. It was like, he's just some old guy in a wingsuit and he looks ridiculous. But because of the MCU and the technology in the MCU, they made him into a genuinely threatening, scary, intimidating villain, and he is the main crutch of this film in my opinion. The rest of this film though just summarizes why I'm not a massive fan of the characterization of Spider-Man in the MCU. They turn him into mini Tony Stark, which I don't like. I've got to be honest, I can't stand that. I think Tom Holland does a fantastic job with the material that he's given, and I think he's a really likable Spider-Man and Peter Parker. But I hate the fact that this is a version of Spider-Man who relies heavily on his technology, relies heavily on Tony Stark coming to save his ass every 5 minutes. It works to a certain extent, but for me, Spider-Man was always a more street-level, stripped-back superhero. So to see him be a mini Iron Man, whilst I understand why they've done it, I also didn't really like that approach, and it kind of makes him seem dumb and that he can't really do anything without other people helping him, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's never how I interpreted Spider-Man growing up. Not only that, it kind of annoys me as well that by the end of the film he's in his original costume and he still manages to defeat the Vulture, and I'm like, okay, this is where we're going to go with Spider-Man now then. And they didn't, and he's still mini Tony Stark and mini Iron Man, and I guess I'm just gonna have to live with it at this point. There's just certain things in this movie where when I think back to reading Spider-Man comics and seeing the cartoons as a kid, I just can't get by those things, and I don't think I ever will be, because that's just not how I know Spider-Man. But I think the cast is pretty good. I really like the story, I guess. Overall, I think there's some really cool moments. I like the bit with the ship. I obviously, like I mentioned, love the Vulture in this. So yeah, I don't think it's a terrible movie, but again, like Black Panther, it was a bit of a letdown. And then the last one to round off this video, Doctor Strange. Now this is the thing, Doctor Strange I didn't think would be this low on my list, but looking at the list, because it's right there, I think I do prefer the others as movies. Now I know I sort of ripped into Homecoming and stuff, but I do actually quite like Far From Home because of the plot and the story. I can kind of live with the Spider-Man stuff, but with Doctor Strange, as enjoyable as it is, and it is really cool seeing the magic side of the MCU, in the same breath, this is very much a rehash of Iron Man in so many different ways. Like, obviously he's not wearing a tin suit by the end of the film, but the character of Stephen Strange is very similar to Tony Stark in the sense of he's an arrogant arsehole who has to learn not to be an arrogant arsehole, ends up with, in Tony Stark's case, an Iron Man suit and everything, and with Doctor Strange it's the magical powers, and then he's got to overcome who he was before and then become the best of all of us, that sort of thing, which is very enjoyable. But I think, again, the last act, as interesting as it is and unique as it is, I think could have been a little bit better. I do like seeing Doctor Strange learn and fail at being like the Sorcerer Supreme. It's quite funny in places when you see someone who is that arrogant and up their own arse get their comeuppance. But at the same time, I think the love interest stuff doesn't really work in this film. It's almost like they put it in there just for the sake of it, similar to how I feel with the Thor films. But I've got to say the supporting cast in this film is incredibly strong, and I do like all of them. Like the Ancient One, I love Wong. How can you not love Wong? He's fucking awesome. But again, slight villain problem. Like, the villain's fine. I can't even remember the dude's name. But yeah, he's fine. But he's not really top tier is he? And then of course there's Dormammu, who I always thought was a dude with a flaming head. Like, I don't know why he's like a planet looking motherfucker, but hey, it works. And like I say, that scene with him is very unique and interesting. I just wish it was a little bit more. I don't really know what else you could have done with it or would have done with it, or what the other ideas were. I have no idea. But it's enjoyable for what it is, and I appreciate that it's different, but I still feel you can improve upon that. I think the cape's really funny as well, actually. Weirdly. I don't think in the comics that the cape is sentient, but it is in these films, and it's actually pretty humorous. I just feel like Doctor Strange as a character will get better going forward, and whilst this movie isn't shit by any stretch of the imagination, it is a good film and I do enjoy it and I will happily revisit it. But I just feel like that character can get better and his movies can get better, and hopefully the Multiverse of Madness will be what I'm wanting. So we'll just have to see. But so far, that is what I think of Phase 3. These are the lower end of the spectrum. Again, I don't think any of them are bad. I don't think any of them are dog shit. I don't think any of these are like, oh, I'm never watching them again. It's just, I do prefer the others that I'm going to talk about in the next video. So, in the comments though, guys, let me know what you think. Do you agree with my choices so far? Do you not? What are they? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it. Subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description, as always. So if you'd follow me on any of those things, then I'd absolutely love you forever. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.